Nigeria at 64. Zero. My assessment for Nigeria at 64 is zero. Because even a child that is born in a year who does not walk becomes a lame child. Talking of 64 years. We are still rigmaroling. The Jebudujeras are holding us. The thieves are, they are stealing us. They are taking our words. They are taking our words. The kind of value that was supposed to be accrued to us as a Yoruba man, the Fulani has stolen it. Sincerely speaking. And that's exactly what called for this agitation. We are agitated and we are going. And there is no Jupiter that will stop us. That's a problem like that. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This is a much more enthusiastic audience than I normally find in Washington, D.C. And I appreciate very much the opportunity to come. As you can imagine, for me, it's very unusual to be speaking about Nigeria in Lahti, Finland. Only very recently did I have a chance to meet and to speak with your ministers and discuss your cause. And I'm very glad that Michael Rubin spoke to all of you. Respect for him, and he writes about liberty and freedom around the world regularly in Washington. I have visited Nigeria and have been incredibly impressed at the people that I have met. As I traveled across Nigeria, I found people who were entrepreneurial, who worked extraordinarily hard, who were people of faith, people who cared for their families, and people with extraordinary potential. Yet I found that they suffered under a government that did not live up to its responsibilities to protect them and to protect those opportunities for them, and a government that in many cases seemed to be working against them instead of for them. Now, Nigeria, as anyone who looks at would recognize, is extraordinarily important, not only for Africa, but to the world. It has the largest population and economy in Africa. Africa itself is a continent, not only to Africans, but also to Americans and to people around the world. I have occasionally gotten into a taxi cab to go to the airport, and my driver, it turns out, came from Africa. And we will discuss where he or she came from and what their home was like. And what I am particularly concerned about, like Michael Rubin, is concerned about human rights, about religious liberty, about economic opportunity, all of which are fundamental for human people everywhere on earth. And despite problems in my country, and as all of you recognize, all countries have some problems, and I accept with my own as well, the United States has done generally pretty good at trying to protect those opportunities and those liberties, which is why we've drawn people from Nigeria to America. But you shouldn't have to leave your country to have those opportunities. That we see in Nigeria today, and for Biafrans, is the belief that to be fully protected and have full opportunity, that they must leave and go somewhere else. Now, you are enriching countries around the world, and that, I think, is wonderful, bringing knowledge of Nigeria, of Biafra, of Africa, to Finland, to Europe, and to America. But again, you shouldn't feel you have to leave your homes to do so. And that is something which other people, other countries around the world should support you as you demand that those opportunities be protected. And we all know the problems that have occurred in Africa, in Nigeria. I don't have to go through them, you have lived them. In terms of internal conflict and violence, of misrule and dictatorship, of corruption, of political misbehavior, even of the current government. That the problems, unfortunately, there was great hope when the dictatorship ended. But if one looks at Africa and looks at Nigeria today, one sees it getting worse, not better. And that is wrong. And that is a threat to you all. It's a threat to your families back in Nigeria, and it's a threat to everyone who lives in Biafra. I think that it's important here, it's vital that these opportunities not be lost. An area that I care especially about is religious liberty, and I write about that an awful lot. And that's an area that I have great concern in what I see in Nigeria today. That again, there's a long history here, which I don't need to tell you because you have lived it. But it's recognized by some in America, and I think this is an important issue to address the new administration on. Because Donald Trump does care about religious liberty. It's an issue during his first term that he was concerned about. He received very strong support from many religious people in America. And this is the kind of issue that you can use to administration about the importance of liberty in Nigeria, and also in that context then raise the cause of Biafra. That is not something which many people write about. Michael Rubin was an exception. But this is an issue that you can use to educate Americans. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, which is an independent body that studies religious issues around the world, told us last year that freedom conditions in Nigeria remained extremely poor. Violence across Nigeria impacted freedom of religion or belief as the government failed to prevent attacks against faith-based organizations and worshipers, with some accusing it of actually fomenting those attacks. So this is recognized. This is recognized in Washington. And of course, these kinds of attacks harm all Nigerians, everywhere in the country. But the attacks have been particularly focused on Christians. And that is something, again, that can be brought to the attention of the U.S. government, that this is a way to raise your cause. The challenge, I have to tell you, is today in Washington, every interest group and everyone is lined up hoping to get the attention of the new president who comes into office. So this will not be easy. So it's very important to find causes that this president and those around him care about. And I think that is going to be the biggest challenge for you all. It was obvious the Biden administration was not particularly concerned about these issues. Unfortunately, I wish it had been. I personally and my institute try to stay nonpartisan. We want to speak to anyone who we can in Washington about policy and engage anyone who's willing to talk to us. But looking at the record of the Biden administration, it was far too willing to deal with the established government and seemed unconcerned about fundamental liberties like religious liberty, and was prepared to dismiss attacks on Christians throughout the country as being part of rural disputes and climate change and other things, when in fact we can understand the deep roots of religion that those attacks reflected, and the fact that there are virulent terrorist groups active in Nigeria, where at times the government and government security forces have seemed as willing to attack the citizens of Nigeria as to protect them from those terrorist threats. So this, I think, is an important issue to bring forward. It's also important to address the Trump administration when it's trying to think about future friends in Africa. That Biafra would be a friend of America. And you are certainly making that case, and you need to ask those you know in America to make that case in America as well. Because again, Donald Trump is, shall we say, a very unique person. That that's not always perhaps to America's benefit, but I think in this case, it's actually very useful. Because Donald Trump is willing to break with the status quo. And you are certainly making that case. And you need to ask those you know in America to make that case in America as well. Because again, Donald Trump is, shall we say, a very unique person. That that's not always perhaps to America's benefit, but I think in this case, it's actually very useful. Because Donald Trump is willing to break with the status quo. I do a lot of work on issues like North Korea, and I thought one of the brilliant steps that Donald Trump took was a willingness to meet with the leader of North Korea that no other U.S. president had ever done. So that is something that you can appeal to him on, that perhaps he could meet with the leader of Biafra. That he recognizes the importance of reaching out to people who his predecessors refused to have anything to do with. Donald Trump, maybe there is an opportunity. And I also think those around him, many of those who are coming in, share that willingness to challenge the status quo. And that is what you suffer from. And I will admit, when I first heard about what you were doing, I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember the terrible war. I was young, but I still remember pictures on TV and pictures of starving children, the horrors that happened with that. And you all know that. I suspect almost all of you had people who suffered in that, friends and family who died and suffered the horrors of that, which can never be repeated. But what the status quo in Washington then is, we don't talk about such things, right? We put them away in a closet somewhere, and we say that issue's finished, nothing to be done, please don't bother us, we have other things to do. And when you sit in Washington, I have to tell you, it's very tempting to it's kind of the ultimate imperial city, where American policymakers view themselves as kind of on top, and their job is to speak to the world and deliver their judgment. Now, I am not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell Nigerians or Africans what to do. I do not live your experience. I do not go through your experience. I have not suffered what you have suffered. I have not had the frustrations that you have had. So the last thing I would ever do is to try to tell you, as if I know better than you, what you should do. But I want to encourage you to speak out, because you can carry the message forward. And that message needs to go to Washington, D.C. And that message needs to go to the White House when there's a new president. It needs to go to the Congress. Now the U.S. Senate will be controlled by Republicans as well. There's a chance there. It needs to go in meeting, but they need to hear your message, because today it's not a message that anyone really wants to talk about. But I think if you can get attention of the president, get attention of other leaders, this is an opportunity. And I want to encourage all of you, you have a cause that is just, a cause that is important. It is a cause that is compelling. And I think then nestle that within the larger argument. You know, this is an administration, current one, where the president only now, as he is about a month and a half away from leaving office, decided to visit Africa. That apparently he looked at a map one day and said, oh, I guess I wasn't there. Now we need, with the new administration, a president comes in and says, I should go to Africa. I need to look at Africa. I need to understand Africa. And a good place for him to start is Nigeria. And if he starts, he should not start thinking of Abuja. He should start thinking about the people of Nigeria, wherever they live, and understanding how that government in Abuja and its security forces are not serving the people of Nigeria. Because the ultimate responsibility of any government is to protect your safety, is to protect your opportunities, to protect your freedom to worship and to live and to speak, and to protect a democratic future where you can choose your leaders freely and live in a free and democratic society. And that's not being done today by the government in Abuja. And Nigeria could lead Africa, but as I indicated, it looks like it's going in the wrong way. Well, a free Biafra could lead Nigeria. So I want you to encourage, take that message to Washington, that listening to you is an opportunity for the United States to help improve Africa and help Africa lead the world. Because as I indicated, again, you look around the world, virtually every country is shrinking. I mean, one can look at Europe and much of Europe could theoretically disappear. I mean, the estimates on fertility rates, it's extraordinary. Even at China, by the end of the century, people talk about it, China being maybe 400 million people rather than 1.4 billion. Africa continues to have vitality. Africa continues to have life, and for the future can show the way. And that is a very good reason for the United States to have a president start with a visit to Africa, not end with a visit to Africa, to turn it around and say, I'm starting with the future. I'm starting with the possibilities. I'm starting with the opportunities. And again, a good place to start, if that's your policy, is Biafra. So let me, as I indicated, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But it looks to me like you know what you want to do. And I want to commend you, again, for your enthusiasm, for your willingness to gather here, for your willingness you've chosen leaders, you're pushing referendum, you're taking steps to make this vision, this dream into a reality. And I just want to encourage you on that journey. This is your journey, not mine. It's not Donald Trump's journey. It's not an America's journey. Unfortunately, the United States has pushed a lot of people on journeys that didn't work out. But if you start on the journey and you are making the journey happen, then you can come to America and say, help us. So I want to conclude with a vision of a democratic and prosperous African continent, a democratic and prosperous Nigeria, and a democratic and prosperous Biafra. This is up to you to turn that kind of a vision into a reality. And I'm so happy again to see so much enthusiasm and a willingness to gather and to push this vision. And I want to thank you for inviting me to come to speak to you. Because I have to tell you, as someone who's been involved in American politics for a very long time and has grown a little tired and a little cynical about American politics, I find this energizing and for me to go back to America. So thank you, Godspeed, and have a blessed new year. Thank you.
Nigeria at 64. What is your assessment so far?
0. My assessment for Nigeria at 64 is 0. Because even a child that is born in a year who does not walk, we call him a lame boy, a lame child. Only 1 year old, we call him, he or she will be referred to as a lame child. Talk less of 64 years. We are still rigmaroling. The Jebudu Geras are holding us. The thieves are, they are stealing us. They are taking our words. They are taking our words. The kind of value that was supposed to be accrued to us as a Yoruba man, the Fulani has stolen it.
So, some analysts are saying that Nigeria is in total mess. Do you agree with them?
Absolutely. It's a fact. A country who imports toothpaste. A country who hasn't any production or productive means as well. A country who imports virtually everything he uses or she uses. There is nothing written about her. That country, there is nothing written about that. At 64, Western Europe. So, our transport system, the Lagos State, you could see how the government is fighting on the citizens. They created a place called BRT. If you mistakenly pass through that and drive towards it, it becomes a problem. The law enforcement agent will arrest you, put you in jail if you can't pay. If you are not going to pay the fine.
Thank you so much, sir. So, since we got our independence from the British in 1960, some analysts are saying the country is stable. So, what is your say? Where we need to stay?
Thank you. Are we obtaining our independence?
Yeah, I think so.
Not at all. They are not independent. The British is ruling this nation. The British have seen the what? The Fulanis to be what? To be dollars. They gave them God. They knew the Yorubas are intellectuals. They knew that the Biafrans, they are what? They are technologically, equipped. So they now saw that those ones that could be easily, convinced and used should carry God. And they want this agitate for power. You understand? To lead. If you, as a man of brain, you have something upstairs, and you see God, won't you drop it? You will drop it under duress because you love your life. Yeah. So that's exactly what's happening in Nigeria. So the country, oh my God, the contraption, I'm telling you, hasn't independence yet. We were colonized by the British, and today the British is still using our people to recolonize us after they have said that they have removed their hands, given our fathers independence. Till today, they are still ruling Nigeria. Because if they are not ruling us, they should have eulogized these people that are sick, have a headache in Nigeria, and fly down to the United Kingdom to take what? Treatment. If we have been freed from colonization, anyone who steal money from this place, they will not accept him or her to launch that money in their account in the UK and all over the world. So we are still on that. They are using us by a trick. Of recent time, they sent one of their minister down to Nigeria to come and cajole us again that Nigeria in 2075 will be the most viable business arena. That we should sign a treaty with them again for another 50 years. To lure us and our children into what? Into dilemma system and position of poverty. Into what dilemma position of what? Of poverty, killing, maiming, destroying, all kind of things, assault you can think of. So, of course, I told the kings that they want to lure our king into this, signing appending signatures on this we are talking about, and we have told them it's a death warrant. If they sign it, they are gone. Yes, because God told them He will visit them one after the other. So there is nothing working. Now, Tinubu, the president, came up with what? With subsidy, oil subsidy removal. He removed the subsidy, the subsidy on oil. And today, look at the price of petrol. Look at it's unbearable. It really takes away food from the table of each parent. And so we are not independent. Please.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. So what can you say on the number of medical professionals relocating to abroad?
See, it's more or less like 65% of medical practitioners have relocated. Mm-hmm. Yes. In fact, it will be more than 65. Because we have few doctors in Nigeria. All of them went out for to sit by a greener pasture. And there is nothing was about it. Who want to die of hunger? A medical doctor, do you know how much? There is one operation that said he received 169,000 naira per month. And when he gets to what? To oversee there, he was happy. He said he would have blamed himself forever if he had not traveled out of Nigeria. Look at that. They had created the whole system. Nothing is working. There is nothing is working. Go to different locations, different areas of governance, health center, transportation system, educational system. Think of it. They are all in shambles. So we are not proud of Nigeria. And that's why we are agitating that we are going to our home. When the president mentioned regionalism, I know he has raised the bill for it almost twice as according to the citizens and not the government. Recent time that's yet to be deliberated on. I believe that if we return back to regionalism, we would take care of our what? Ourselves. And there will not be any problem for us. That's about that. Two, see, presenter, don't let me talk too much about that.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, sir.
You're welcome.
So what can you say on the political structure of Nigeria?
Political structure of Nigeria is sitting on a thousands of gunpowder. Sitting on a keg of what? Keg of gunpowder. The present two political parties, they are weary. They know them top. The only thing that could save us in this nation is having another political party. The two that were in existence now, they are, how would I put it? They are in conjunction, working together to develop Nigerians. There is no authority for the political system of Nigeria because it's based on error, lies. I will do this. Hello for Kobale. I will do that. Hello for. I had a video where President Tinubu was campaigning that. They said it is that taking oil price of 200 naira. We will bring it down. Hello for Kobale. Be rest assured that we are going to do it. Now he got to power. He forgot what he promised. Do you understand? That's about that.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think I have one more question.
Okay.
What can you say on the state of the economy in Nigeria?
I have said it all. There is nothing to be about. Even for 18 months, of their work, IMF borrows them money from time to time. IMF borrows them money, lure them into debt. They have used the life of what? Of the yet unborn to borrow money. Borrowing is in our blood in Nigeria. And that's why you see this agitation is so much these days. And in terms of Biafran, go and Google it. You see where the Northerners cut the head of the parents of what are the Biafrans in those days and packaged them, put them in a train traveling to the east for the children of the Biafra to do what? To welcome their fathers and their mothers' head. Who does that? Who accepts that? And you think that kind of what? Of occurrences would elude them? It will get out of them. So that's why I'm telling you that a year-old boy, girl of the heaven knows that they don't have to understand this. So, you're going to draw the veil over, presenter. I'm telling you, if Nigeria is not splitted or undergoes splitting, I'm telling you, there is no way out. There is no, if we leave Nigeria for our land, we will only suffer for 3 years. Now within 3 years, we'll have corns. Àgbàdo, a máa yẹ àgbàdo jẹ. A máa jẹ àgbàdo. Àtàwọn nǹkan tó bá ṣe é gbìn tá a lè jẹ immediately. Under 3 months, we'll have them. And then within 3 years, we'll put things in place. Because we'll be more focused. It won't be like we're saying that okay, this thing is our own. No, this thing is my own. When this is my own, I will take care of it very well. But when it's our own, if it can be good, if it can't, let it be wasted. That's exactly what you are saying. Look at the regime of Baba of Buhari. Was so fatter that they siphoned a lot of billions of dollars out of the Nigerian treasury through Malami. But to today, he has not been brought to book. But I believe there is no any negative things to do in the hidden, which God will not bring into us.